Wagon Master is a 1950 Western film starring Ben Johnson, Carey Jr., and Ward Bond, and was directed by probably the most famous and iconic Western director ever, John Ford. It centers around two cowboys who are hired by a group of Mormons to lead their wagon train to the San Juan Valley. Along the way, the group contends with the untamed country, the Navajo, and a murderous family of outlaws who stumble across their path. Wagon Master is a really interesting film, starting with the fact that it, like most of John Ford's films, is filled with the actors that made up his regular stock company. But there is no one major star that is at the head of the cast. It was made right between Chihuahua Ribbon and Rio Grande, so it would have made perfect sense if John Wayne had been the star here as well. But instead, this movie has a smaller, lower-key feel. The landscapes definitely gave it an epic look at times, but it's only 86 minutes, and the real main character of the movie is Ben Johnson. So right from the start, you know it's going to be a bit more downplayed. He and Carey Jr. are the two cowboys that get hired by the Mormons, and the two of them have such great chemistry. Of course, they had already worked together the year before in She Wore a Yellow Ribbon, so I'm sure they had already developed a good relationship, and it shows on screen. They have a really easygoing friendship, and the two performances complement each other really well. Ben Johnson, as I said, is his usual soft-spoken self, and his character is definitely the more experienced and wise one of the duo. We also get a hint that his character potentially has something of a darker past, and he kind of takes charge when events look like they're about to spin out of control while they're on the trail. Ben Johnson was, of course, an expert horseback rider, and he gets a chance to show that off when he is chased by a band of Navajo in one really thrilling scene. Carey Jr. plays the youthful cowboy character that's in lots of westerns. He quickly takes a liking to one of the young women in the wagon train. He's much more impetuous, and Ben Johnson sometimes has to rein him in. His character actually reminded me a lot of his character from The Searchers, only, again, more lighthearted here. In The Searchers, his character has to go through a lot heavier of a situation, so it's kind of interesting comparing the two performances and seeing him grow as an actor and almost watching this character grow into something else. Ward Bond is one of the Mormon elders, and he's such a great actor. He appeared in so many movies over the years, and John Ford always knew how to use him best. He gets to play a lot of comedic scenes in this movie, especially concerning the fact that he is a more recent convert than some of the other elders, one of them played by Russell Simpson, and watching the two of them spar over Ward Bond speaking like and displaying his non-Mormon tendencies was quite fun to watch. But he also has some scenes where you see the other side of Ward Bond, where he's facing down the bad guys that start traveling along with the wagon train. And there are times where he's just seething with rage and trying to control himself to prevent making the situation worse. And in those moments, he is very impressive. Some of these actors were in so many movies, big and small, that I think they kind of can get taken for granted. And Ward Bond is one of them. When you really watch him, he is such a gifted actor. He was never going to be a major movie star, but he defines the consummate character actor who always gives it his all. Speaking of the bad guys, though, I think this might be the first, if not one of the first times, where the bad guys in a Western are a family of crazed outlaws. That became a much-used plot device in so many later Westerns, like Will Penny or Ride the High Country, Man of the West, but this seems like it's one of the earliest examples. The movie opens with them committing a robbery, and the leader, played by Charles Kemper, murdering a man with a sawed-off shotgun. So we're thrown right into that immediately. Also in the gang are James Arness and Hank Worden. Overall, I would say the family is a little weak as characters. Most of them seem to be overacting quite a bit, Hank Worden included. He especially just doesn't work for me as a bad guy. Just a little too goofy to be considered menacing. I also didn't quite understand their motivation other than just terrorizing the people in the wagon train, so their storyline was probably my least favorite part of the movie. Also in the cast are Alan Mowbray, doing his usual stuffy British man thing, very out of his element in the Old West. Joanne Drew is supposed to be Ben Johnson's love interest. Her character is not explored very much though, so she doesn't make much of an impact. There's also John Ford regular Jane Darwell, and John Ford's brother Francis shows up in the movie as well. My favorite part of this movie has to be the cinematography. It is so beautifully shot by Burt Glennon in Moab, Utah. Unlike She Wore a Yellow Ribbon, John Ford chose to shoot Wagon Master in black and white. And I think that was an excellent choice. He somehow just knew how to pick the right days to film because the sky looks amazing. It reminds me of Fort Apache, actually. There too, the sky is just so breathtaking towards the end of the movie, especially. And these shots of the wagon stretching out towards the horizon are just gorgeous. Just thinking of setting up a shot like that with so many horses and wagons and actors, and then potentially having to do it multiple times, and then seeing how it just turned out so perfectly, it's amazing. So many shots have this classical, almost painting-like framing. One shot of Ben Johnson and Carey Jr. riding up to a fence and waiting as the wagons roll by was just so well framed. And just to think of how much of this was on location. There are a couple scenes that I would assume were on a soundstage later on, but they are minimal. You just don't get movies like this anymore. Going off of that, because this is a Western, we get to what might be the most important question of all. How was the gunfight? And it was really good, actually. It happens very quickly, it's kind of messy and chaotic, but that's exactly what makes it so great. The shots are all perfectly chosen, with one great shot through the spokes of a wagon wheel especially, and there's some really nice gun fanning. A lot of the music is by the Sons of the Pioneers, and their sound is very nostalgic for me. I grew up watching lots of Roy Rogers movies, and they appear in several other John Ford westerns as well, so the sound of their harmonies just takes me back and fits so well with the old-fashioned, feel-good type of western that this is. One last thing I have to mention is the costumes. Another thing that can make or break my enjoyment of a western sometimes, and they're really nice. There's some great bib shirts, vests and chaps and hats. Hats are one thing that some more modern westerns just can't seem to get right, and there's no reason for that. All I'm saying is there are plenty of old westerns that knew exactly what they were doing in the hat game, so check them out, filmmakers. I feel like this movie is maybe talked about less than a lot of other John Ford movies, and it deserves to be seen and appreciated. So if you haven't, or if it's been a while, I'd recommend saddling up with Wagon Master. Thanks for checking out this review. For more, head on over to my channel, Hildebrand Productions. Adios for now.